Hey, let's talk about perimenopause, because I get asked this a lot, and I think there's a lot of power to be had around this huge hormonal transition that women are not given. And while we are throwing hormones at them, and sometimes that helps, there's so much more that we can do to support hormone balance in our life. And I want to give you just a couple of nuggets. So number one, perimenopause. It's not about the estrogen level, and a lot of times we'll get our hormones tested and we'll take our estrogen and try to get it in this range, but it's not about the level, it's about the fluctuation. That's what makes the symptoms of perimenopause or menopause, right? The hot flashes and all that stuff. So when we think about that, the goal is not necessarily to get you to this pristine level of estrogen. The goal is to stabilize and utilize the estrogen and put it where we want it to go. Because there's the bad track towards estrogen, that's the breast cancer risk and the clotting risk and all those things that you read on the side effect profile of estrogen that you don't want. And then there's the great things about estrogen, which is why you do take hormones, or many people do, right? And so the Jessica Rabbit, the wonderful, luxury of living your most vital life. But I want to give you some tools of what you can do in your lifestyle, because estrogen is, of course, a hormone. It's regulated through that complex spider web of the endocrine system. So self-care is super, super important. Your adrenal glands, right? Are you feeling stressed? Are you feeling like you're fighting a lion? Are you not sleeping well? Those things can really impact and worsen our hormone balance in general. So making sure you're taking time to nourish yourself, to nurture yourself, to find peace, to find awe, and to recognize how important that is. Because if you take good care of yourself, you'll feel better, you'll take good care of who matters most to you. And so that aside, and knowing that sleep, I ran through that, and sleep is affected by your hormones, the hot flashes, etc., but it also affects your hormones, and that's a whole nother conversation. But I want to give you a couple of nuggets in terms of nutrition and perimenopause, because this is not talked about a lot. And the reason this is important is because if we talk about the microbiome, right, the trillions of organisms that line all of your intestinal tract and beyond, every outward facing organ, in that microbiome, there is a subset called the estrobolome that is in charge of estrogen metabolism, of hormone balance, of how we utilize the estrogen and what we do with it. And we want to fuel that microbiome as much as possible and create a healthy microbiome, and that will help us utilize our estrogen more effectively. So how do we do that? What am I always screaming? High fiber, right? Diverse fiber-rich foods. If there's a couple to focus on in perimenopause, number one, cruciferous vegetables. Really, really key. Cruciferous vegetables are fantastic for the immune system. They are just a wonderful powerhouse. So that's your kale, your arugula, your broccoli, your cauliflower, broccoli sprouts, etc. Super important to make sure the estrogen goes into the good track. So utilize those and have them every day. The other thing is lignan-rich foods, ground flax, right? It's the same. These things are echoed through these anti-cancer talks, through so many benefits. The ground flax makes this soluble fiber environment that helps support the mucus layer where your microbiome, specifically your estrobolome, resides. It's the highest source of lignans that helps us in terms of perimenopausal symptoms. It interacts with the estrogen receptor. So try to get a tablespoon of ground flax, maybe 2 tablespoons of ground flax every day. And the other thing we want to be conscious of is our liver and purifying or supporting our liver. How do we do that? Well, get rid of the alcohol and saturated fat as much as you possibly can, and processed refined foods. You might have heard this before, but why does this specifically apply to estrogen? Well, those things will cause insulin resistance in the liver. They will make the liver not as effective in terms of metabolizing and ridding ourselves of estrogen. So saturated fat, that's cheese, 70% saturated fat, right? That's predominantly your processed foods that have palm oil or even coconut oil in them. but also your animal products, right? Red meats and processed meats especially, you want to try to get rid of those. And you want to get rid of the alcohol, sadly. It's obviously not very helpful for the liver, but particularly in perimenopausal women, it is just not your friend for balancing hormones, I'm sorry to say. What do we want to add in and focus on to support the liver detoxification is dark leafy greens. So try to get at least 2 cups of dark leafy greens a day. So I hope that gives you some tips. Cruciferous vegetables, ground flax, dark leafy greens, and get out that crappy stuff that's poisoning your liver and nourish yourself. Yes, you deserve to have a wonderful, joyful, and easy perimenopause transition. Have a wonderful day. I'm Dr. Susanna Bozzoni, and I hope this helps.